Hello, I am Rob.
And I'm Angie.
And together we are TwinFinity. Today we are broadcasting from, well, believe it or not, I'll twist it around, the back of my SUV, because we came out to the mountains to see if we could do a video whether there was any temperature issues or not. And we have managed to find ourselves a winter wonderland. So if you can only imagine, we're sitting in the back hatch area, and the hatch is up, and the world is behind us, and it's all snowy, and it's not really a whole lot below zero, so it's not that terribly cold.
And what's really, really funny is at home, which is only, how far away is home from here?
Well, you know,
like an hour?
Well, yeah, an hour, a bit over an hour's drive.
It's beautiful. It's sunny. It's warm. So us crazy people, we come and find the snow.
We go out to the mountains, and we're halfway between the middle of nowhere and the middle of everywhere else nowhere. And here it is. It's winter.
And Rob had this brilliant idea. Hey, if we sit in the back of the vehicle, then we can still show them the snow and all the beautiful trees, but not have the snow snowing on us. Because we have journal readings and books, and we don't want them all snowy. Yeah. So,
also our
perfect solution.
Our little MacBook here. Yeah, it's got to stay dry, too. So we wanted a few snowflakes, but as you can tell by looking behind us, it was a little bit crazy.
A little bit. So yes, we feel like we're sitting in a snow globe because we've got snow all around us, but we're not getting snowy. It's wonderful.
We are sitting in a snow globe, no doubt. Anyway, last video, just to do a quick recap, that was our Cup Runneth Over video where I was just totally overwhelmed with emotion and happiness. Also, that was our 90 hours with 8 hours sleep, where we got into almost a meditative state due to lack of sleep, but we were having a ton of fun with our connection, and also connections beyond what we really understood. And also, it was my birthday day and the day after with the puzzle and running up all the fire escapes, picking up all the pieces of the puzzle.
That was fun.
Yeah, so that's a quick recap of what we'd done last time.
And this week, we're talking all about runner-chaser stuff. What fun. Now, for those of yous, wow, this is good English. I get out in the snow and I can't talk now, too. Great. For those of you who haven't seen our other videos yet, we're just going to maybe back up for a second and just let you know that we are Twin Flames in Union, and we've just been called to start sharing our story. So we've been sharing from the beginning of how we met and the interesting dynamics. Where we left off last time was only 2 weeks into meeting each other, and already we had, just like Rob was saying, just so many amazing things going on. So it wasn't far into our connection that there was already some running and chasing stuff going on. So this week is all about kind of getting into those dynamics. So I was going to dive into that, and we'll kind of go from there. I'm going to read a little piece that was read last week in my journal, just to kind of reiterate where this running started to come from and where the triggering was already happening so quickly. So this was at the very next day after we met, and I'm back in Rob's apartment, and he's just kissing me all over my face and my eyelids, and this is his cup runneth over moment that he's sharing. Aw, he's so nice. So I was saying I was surprised with him. He kept kissing me on the cheek, the forehead, the neck, and kept looking at me like he never wanted to let me go. I felt kind of the same, but was a little unsure. So already, very next day from meeting, and I'm already like, yeah, I don't know. This is amazing, but it's still a little scary. So I'm going to read a few more things to kind of reiterate this, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the dynamic. I told Rob the next day to expect me to run for a bit and need some time to figure this out. So apparently I was already aware that I was having runner feelings. What's really funny, again, is that we didn't know 20 years ago that we were twin flames. We had no idea what this dynamic was, but we have all these words that are now part of the twin flame dynamic, like the runner and the chaser. So I've got it in my journals from 20 years ago talking about running, which is funny. Then I also wrote, finally, Tuesday morning, this is after we had our, what was that? Our 90
hours.
Yeah, 90 hours of connection with only 8 hours of sleep. So we were talking and talking and talking. So I wrote, finally, Tuesday morning, July 29th, Rob went back to his place. 4 hours later, he called me and suggested we rent movies. I was feeling a little overloaded, though, and needed some free time alone. Now, again, back then, I was 23. I didn't know much about myself. I had done 4 years of counseling, but still, I was not aware of a lot of things about my personality. One of those things was being a highly sensitive person. For any of you that are familiar with that term, there's actually a book out about being highly sensitive, and I'm going to show you. We actually brought it, and this is why we're sitting in the vehicle so it doesn't get all snowy. So this is the book, if any of you are interested, want any more information about it. Amazing book. In fact, it even gives you a little checklist that you can do, if you can see that well, if I can do this. And this is also online. You can do a free checklist online, and it kind of helps you understand if you are highly sensitive. So back then, I didn't know I was highly sensitive. But I just knew from Rob's and my amount of time together, our 90 hours with only 8 hours of sleep, I was starting to feel overwhelmed, way overstimulated, and I just needed some space. So I was glad that I wrote that I was aware that I needed some time alone. After all that time together, I was like, no, I don't want to go watch movies.
Well, and another side anecdote, almost a tangent, when it comes to being highly sensitive. Even today, we deal with those kinds of issues.
Yes, we do.
My favorite one for us is light bulbs.
Yes.
When I walk into a house, our house, I turn on lights. I turn on many lights. Everywhere I go, I turn on lights. And if I'm going to not be anywhere near where I'm going, I'll turn out the light as I go by. But anything that's shining close to the area that I'm at, I turn on light bulbs. Angie is the opposite. She'll walk on in and turn on a light bulb so that she can see how to take off her shoes and where to hang up her coat. And then she'll shut the lights back off. And she'll be walking around in dimness where if she's 10 feet away from you, you can't see her. But she, being highly sensitive, is not taking in the energy, where I am turning on lights so that I can get all sorts of energy. This creates sometimes difficult dynamics.
Yes.
Where, for example, when I want to brush my teeth at night, I want to know where I've set down my toothpaste tube and where my toothbrush is going back into its holder. I'm not wanting to squint through the middle of darkness to see where all that is. Here she is. She's brushing her teeth in the dark. Sometimes I'll walk in and the bedroom and bathroom will be totally dark, but the shower's on. She's having a shower in the dark. I don't even know how she finds the shampoo and soap and everything else. But there it is, all dark. And
magic bat eyes.
Yeah, must be. So with the thought of sensitivity and the thought that I like stimulation, it really did create us some difficulties at the beginning, because any time that I was feeling like we weren't connected, I would always be charging back into being in touch with her. And after all those hours of not sleeping well, she was looking to pull back and go hide and get some rest and desensitize. And that creates one of the next readings that she has.
Yes, and I actually just wanted to add before I do the next bit of reading, when you don't know you're highly sensitive, it causes a lot of problems. And I didn't discover that I was highly sensitive until 2011. What's interesting, I'll just show my book one more time. I'm so grateful. I don't know why or when I started this, but I always write the date when I read a book. So I read this book July 5th of 2011. So I was just starting to learn all those years later about this, and it just was such a light bulb moment of going, oh, this is what my problem has been for so long. So when Rob and I were together back in when were we together?
97.
Thank you. I had the word 5, and I'm like, no, wrong time. Yeah, back in 1997, I did not know, and it caused us both so many problems. So yeah, like he's talking about, he was loving stimulation. For me, I'm like, back the hell off, I'm done. But I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know that I was overstimulated. So, problems already ensuing. So let's now find the next. Of course, I got all my little tabs again. I'm trying to keep it all straight. Gets confusing.
We don't keep it all straight every time. But, we fake it quite well.
Well, we're getting there. Okay, this is just a tiny little clip. This was August 10th. So I wrote, I'm starting to fall for him. Shit. Again, sorry for the language, but just saying what's in the journal. So I'm already like, crap, I didn't want to, like, I wasn't intending to fall in love with somebody when I put a note in the laundry room saying, hey, I'm looking for friends. And so now I'm like, what the heck's going on? Like, this was not part of my intention. But then I wrote, how can I not? He cherishes me. He respects me. He listens to me. He understands, and he's just awesome. So I was kind of freaked out about the fact of getting my heart involved, but I was like, well, how can I not? Because I've just met this most amazing man and we have this incredible connection. Next bit of reading is where it gets a little intense. This was August 12th, so only 2 days after. I'm like, oh no, I'm falling for this guy. I wrote, so we spent the night together. And do you want to clarify what that meant, or should I?
You can clarify that.
Okay. We were not having sex yet. We were not into that for actually a month after we met, which I know doesn't seem that long, but really for us a week was like a month. So
as much as we were in this connection and really enjoying it, I was still doing my best to try to pay a little bit of regards to Nicole, Angie's inner child.
Yes.
I was not wanting to upset anything, and I was very thoroughly believing, as probably most people should, but should as a guilt word, that, you take a little bit of time and you honor and respect a person's feelings, whether they're from an inner child or even an external bit. You want to take your time.
And he was also aware that relationships were very new to me. I mean, again, just to reiterate his past, he'd been married, he'd been divorced, he'd dated quite a bit. I was brand new to all of this. So he was very honorable in respecting my needs and the fact that I just wasn't there yet. So yes, we were spending nights together now, but we were not in the place of making love yet. That was just way too intense for me.
Just snuggling.
Yes. So again, I wrote, we spent the night together, and in the morning I got scared and panicked. Here we go. I was feeling like my guard was down too much. So I felt like running. That's pretty much what I did. Okay, so running has begun. So I wrote, poor Rob. That morning he called to give me a hug over the phone. This was something he did often. It's still actually a cute little thing that we do. We'll actually text hug now. But he used to hug me over the phone. So I wrote, what a sweetie. He left a message, and then I put in brackets, I was in bed getting some much needed sleep and avoiding life, because I was kind of running from everything. Then after I heard his message, I started to reconsider running. I had planned not to talk to him, but I ended up having a change of heart. I realized I can't run from this fear of needing others and fear of getting emotionally close forever. It's time to conquer that fear. So I called his place and left a message. When he got home, he called and came down to talk. Wow, what a talk. He told me he is not leaving and this is going to be, or that he's going to be with me as I fight the battles of my past. He's willing to stick by me, even though he knows we'll go through this again, me running. So it's interesting, we were already aware that this isn't going to be the last time this is going to happen.
I'd like to, yeah. Do you want to read a bit more, or did you want me to?
I don't know, did you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
I got more to read, but if you want to add. So I wrote, I was completely in shock and couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've never heard anyone say that before. Most people just leave. Again, my childhood, a lot of abandonment issues, a lot of abuse, so I was not used to having somebody that loved me this much, somebody that was kind, respectful, that was going to stick with me. This was all new. So I cried and cried, and we hugged and hugged. I shared the image I had of Nicole, inner child, huddled in the corner in her pink PJs, scared to trust, but needing a hug and lots of love. Rob got it all, because he's amazing. I was amazed. I was all prepared for him to say, sorry, I can't take this, bye, but yet he stayed. No one has ever gotten to this point. I still wait daily for him to say, forget it, I'm out of here. So you can imagine, of course, I'm having all these grateful feelings that, wow, this man's really in it for the long haul, but yet still a lot of doubts, a lot of fear inside, so much emotional trauma being triggered just because of my past being unhealed, very wounded still.
Where I was getting all this, what some people would call patience from, was the thought that with my spiritual growth, I had learned grounding and patience. And what I was perceiving my role to be in this relationship as it was going to grow, according to my thoughts, was to be the pillar of strength, a good launching spot. If there was any strife, Angie and I could come to my strength, my power, my calmness, and she would be able to rest by me, like to let me just be the Rock of Gibraltar. So with all this, I felt that if all I needed to do was just be strong, she would just work her way through almost everything. It was my job to be patient and to be steady.
All right, so now we're at August 23rd. I wrote, last night he called me as soon as he got home from work because he wasn't sure if I was in I'm scared and run mode, because I'm just kind of getting used to that. I hadn't called and left a message on his machine at all, which I usually do, so he was worried that I wasn't okay. So he's already kind of getting used to this dynamic. Not that he's happy about it, not that he's really thrilled, but he's already going, okay, are you okay? How is today? He's in that caretaker mode, in that nurturer mode. Any other words you'd add to that?
No, not really.
Okay.
I'm not letting her get too far away, which is also just going to start to add to another dynamic.
Yes. So I'm going to read a bit of a long story, but before I do that, I wanted to just kind of explain a little bit more about what was going on inside of me. Because I had so much trauma in my childhood that was still not fully healed. I mean, yes, I'd done 4 years of counseling, but I hadn't really fully touched all of it. Not even close. Then I didn't realize then. I tended to live a lot in my head back then. Very much understood things on an intellectual level, but I was not really in touch with my heart, my body, especially my soul. And of course, what does a twin flame do? They awaken your soul.
Yeah.
If anybody's going to do that, it's a twin flame. So of course, this was all new to me, and now I'm feeling incredibly vulnerable, incredibly opened up to a whole nother level. And yes, it's beautiful. Yes, it's wonderful. Like so many people in the groups, as I'm, reading and replying to messages in the twin flame groups on Facebook, they're saying like, I don't understand the runner. This experience is so beautiful. And yet you guys are leaving and wanting out of it. It's that we're terrified of our own stuff within. We're not running from you per se. We're running from ourselves because we have so much unhealed stuff, and it's being triggered by this love. This love is a magical mirror because our twin flame is our mirror. So if we're not whole within and that mirror is held up to us, we just see all the crap we still have to deal with. And it's terrifying, absolutely scary. So just some of the words, vulnerable. When I was in counseling, I had such issues with vulnerability that I actually couldn't even say the word. My counselor and I had the term V word because vulnerable was so scary for me I couldn't even say vulnerable. That's how bad it was. So I felt vulnerable. I felt overwhelmed. Intimacy. If you really break down the word and understand what it means, it's into me see. So again, that mirror, you're being triggered to look within, and it's like, oh God, I got a lot of crap in there. I don't want to look there. So just a ton of stuff being triggered.
I'd never heard that before. Into me see? I have never heard that before.
Really? Oh, wow.
Nope, never heard of that. Okay,
well, good.
Fine. That's little light bulb comes on in my brain. Right in the middle of a video. How about that?
Yeah, intimacy is literally being naked, not just physically, very seldom. It's about the physical. It's about the emotional. And God, did I feel naked emotionally, spiritually, and I wasn't ready for it. I'd never been to this level, and it was terrifying.
Before we go on to the next bit, I'd like to talk a little bit about being a chaser, because this is where the direction of this is going. I feel that there is two basic kinds of chasers, if you're into the runner-chaser thing. One of the first kind of chaser is the person that when the when the runner is running, the chaser just runs just a little bit faster and keeps up and is always there, even though the runner is trying to run away. And that, by always being in someone's face, even though they're trying to step away, that's almost a little bit, this isn't the right word, but I use the word, a little bit like being a stalker. The other type of chaser is the person that lets the runner run just a little bit, but then snags them and pulls them back towards the chaser. Keeps inviting them back, lets the runner come back sort of on their own volition, but not really. Like not using guilt, but usually using kindness so that the runner may feel a little bit more comfortable, but it's that comfortable again that causes them to run, but then you reel them back in, more or less like lassoing them in. And they bounce back and forth. The runner bounces back and forth between running away from the kindness that they can't handle and then being drawn back by it because it's kindness. The kindness method of being a chaser is the method that I was using with Angie without even realizing it. I just thought if I remained nice all the time, she would work through her stuff and just enjoy the niceness.
But what it actually did for me is it triggered it worse because he would smother me with love. I mean, he just thought if I love her more, she'll open up, she'll feel safe. I think that was your biggest key, right?
Yeah.
It's just trying to make me feel safe. So his intentions were very honorable, but it actually just made it worse for me because it just triggered so much more. The more smothered I felt, the more overwhelmed I felt, the more overstimulated I felt, the more scared I felt.
I was just trying to instill confidence that I was going to stay, that I wasn't going to abandon Angie or Nicole, that I was just going to be there.
Yeah, but it didn't work. It backfired, as does it in most runner-chaser dynamics. And the key that I think a lot of chasers don't recognize, and I think this is where some people don't like the terms runner-chaser, because some of the chasers are saying, well, yeah, if my runner would come back, we'd be fine. And they're not recognizing that it's a double-edged dynamic. It's not the runner's fault. It's not that if the runner would come back, your relationship would be great. Because remember, you're one. So if the runner is running, they're mirroring the chaser. And both of you are running from yourselves. You're just doing it in different ways. The runner is running from themselves. They're running from the dynamic. They're running from the other person. The chaser is chasing the other person, but in the chasing of the other person, they're running from themselves. So the fact is, nobody's looking within. Nobody's dealing with their own stuff. The one's running from their stuff, and the other one's running from their stuff by chasing the other. So you're both runners in an odd sort of way, which is why some people don't like the runner-chaser dynamic, because the chaser is still a runner. Now, having explained all that, we're going to read a little bit more and explain a little bit more of what happened with us. So I wrote, that morning he left for work and I stayed and slept. This was the end of August now. While he was there getting ready for work, I slept extremely well. Didn't hear him at all until he came to kiss me goodbye. After he left, though, I had this horrible dream that someone had broken into my place, stolen my money, and trashed my apartment. The dream was so real. I remember in the dream I just felt violated and scared. Interesting words, violated and scared. I clung to Rob and wouldn't let him out of my sight. This was still in the dream. He was my only safety. I woke up paralyzed and terrified. I was too scared to even go home, so I stayed at Rob's place. I really needed to talk to him to feel safe. I couldn't go home without hearing his voice, just to know I was safe. So I hung around his place and cleaned his kitchen for him. Kind of needed doing anyway.
Bachelor pad.
Yeah.
Complete bachelor pad.
Yeah. It helped me distract myself. Then his phone rang and I wondered if he was home, or if it was him. No message was left, so I called my place to see if he had called my place. Sure enough, he did. Now, pay attention to these next words. I'm still blown away that these are in my journal. He got my telepathic message to call. Once again, I reiterate, we did not know we were twin flames. We didn't know we had telepathic abilities. I don't know why I sent him a telepathic message to call me. I was just that desperate that I'm like, I need to talk to you. Amazing. Truly amazing. So I wrote, he called to say he had a fantastic morning and was just thinking about me. see, this is just love. I mean, he just constantly poured love into me, and it was wonderful, but scary at the same time. Because when you're not used to that kind of love, you're thinking, okay, well, it's going to disappear at some point, so I got to always have my guard up. I got to be ready, be prepared for the hurt, because you know it's coming. It always has in the past. He asked me to call him back at work, and even left the number on his message. Perfect, because I didn't have it memorized, and I couldn't go home to get it. So I called him back and told him of my dream. We analyzed it, and it made sense. Making love was wonderful, so now this was a part of our dynamic. We had just started making love, and a month after we met, and it was obviously traumatizing on some levels. So I wrote, making love was wonderful, but I still at a subconscious level felt abused and violated. However, it wasn't Rob who was the abuser. He was the one who I felt safe with. So it all made sense. I felt so much better after talking about it and understanding what it meant, and that Rob was the safety. He was the good guy. That was very reassuring.
So something about how I was trying to do things was working, but it also wasn't working. It was working and not working, all depending upon the minute, it felt like.
Exactly.
And
what the emotions it was triggering at the moment. Sometimes the emotions were being able to be open and feel safe with all that love. And other times the emotions were being triggered of, oh my God, this is too overwhelming because this love is wonderful, but he's going to leave, so I got to close down.
I have to admit, it was even just this early into our relationship where I was starting to see the yo-yo effect.
Yeah.
Sometimes we were pulling closer, sometimes we were pulling away. And I was doing lots of self-checks, making sure it wasn't me to the best of my ability. And so I was starting to feel Angie's drifting away, coming back, drifting away, coming back. Sometimes it would last an hour or two. Sometimes it would last a day or two. But at this point, I still had lots of patience.
Yes.
It hadn't been that long. We hadn't known each other that long.
No, only a month at that point when I had that dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was just the end of August. Now, this went on for the rest of our dynamic until things ended, which we won't share yet. We'll wait for that part of the story. But I wanted to share some things that are, to be quite honest, hard for me to share because I still have a little bit of sadness over them. And that's as we got further into our relationship, my running started to become a mean thing towards Rob. I was very mean to him at times, very hurtful, very cutting in my words. Do you remember some of the meanness?
Well, I don't remember any specific bits, but I do remember going, wow, like the more I would try to draw her back to me and into what I thought was a place of safety, the harder I pulled to try to get her closer. Sometimes the more she would fight back teeth and claws and everything else it felt like to stay away.
Yeah. Again, because of the highly sensitive stuff, we were, as we shared last week, I mean, we were barely sleeping because we were just go, go, go with talking. And then even after, the talking wore off a little bit, always we've had a lot of talking. But we were climbing mountains, we were going hiking, we were out with friends. I was just constantly overstimulated, overtired, not getting enough space and time alone, sleep.
Neither one of us getting enough sleep.
No. Rob handles overstimulation very well. He thrives on it. Me, not at all. His example about light bulbs, perfect, because we still have this dynamic now, which is so funny. But now I know what I need and I'm able to communicate. Okay, we've had too much social time this week, so if you want to go out and be social, have fun, but I need to stay home. I didn't know that then. I didn't have any sort of boundaries of what I could and couldn't handle. So when I get overstimulated, I got mean. That's the only way I knew how to push him away, and I wasn't even conscious of it.
I'd like to give another example of this overstimulation and her getting mean and maybe not appreciating it. There was one night where I came home and I needed attention. Now, I didn't know I needed attention. We've analyzed this many times after the fact. But there she was sitting on the couch and she was looking distressed. And we had a nice big comforter on, like, close to the edge of the couch. So I decided I would be all nice. I took this comforter and I wrapped it around the front of her and then I tucked it all in behind her. It was almost a straight jacket of comforter.
Yes.
And I was thinking now she'll be all warm and tucked in and snuggled, and she looked like snug as a bug in a rug.
He's trying to nurture me.
Yeah, it probably is me that needed the nurturing, but I was trying to nurture her too. And the next thing that she did was she laid there and she went, rah! She just
I literally growled.
She growled. She just let out this
roar. Yeah.
It was a roar. And I'm thinking, how could you not like that? I've just been super nice to you. Who doesn't want to be tucked in? But she just couldn't handle that level of attention.
No, it was too much stimulation.
And it was getting very confusing to me. The nicer I got, the more she didn't like it.
Yeah. And it's not that I didn't appreciate his love. It just was a couple reasons. Again, because of fear of, well, if I let somebody in and let somebody get this close to me, guaranteed they're going to hurt me at some level because everybody else has. So the other shoe's going to drop someday. So I got to keep my walls up. Those walls are in my life for protection. I can't let them down. So I'd let them down for a bit and then I'd be like, oh God, too close, and I'd pull away. Again, I didn't even know I was doing this. And just to share, it was amazing that it wasn't until many years later when I was with my karmic partner, he is the one that woke me up to this. We'd been together for years and he finally one day said, enough, you have to stop treating me like this. And I was shocked. I didn't even know what he was talking about. See, the funny thing is we hide so much from ourselves. We have our own protective mechanisms. And other people can see clear as day the dynamics we're doing, and we sometimes don't until somebody points it out. I did not know until he finally said, you have this weird thing of come here, go away, go away. You allow me to get close and then you push me away. When he said those words, it just light bulbs went on all the way through my brain, my body, my soul. And I realized that's exactly what I had been doing to Rob many, many years earlier. And I was devastated. Honestly, it took me a long time to really get over that because I realized how much I hurt him, how mean I was to him. And still it makes me so sad to think, sorry, I get teary just even talking about it because the person that you love so much is the person I hurt the most, and it was devastating to know that. So we won't get too much into that because we'll share that later in the story, but I actually went and bought a card for Rob. It sat in my office for over a year before I actually had the courage to give it to him. This is when we were, seeing each other, maybe once a year, if that. Yeah. And I finally had to give it to him because I just felt so ashamed at how I treated him all those years earlier without knowing. So when your twin is treating you badly and you don't know why, know that they're just being deeply triggered. Those of us that are running, God, we're just terrified. It's, yes, you think the dynamic is beautiful and wonderful and full of love, and why would they run from this? Because it's amazing. It is amazing, and we know it just as much as you do, but it triggers so much trauma in us. It triggers our fears. It's usually actually the masculine energy that's the runner. So it's interesting in our dynamic, it was me as the feminine energy.
One of these days we'll talk about how backwards we are in this in the whole dynamic. The person that's awake versus the person that is awakening, the runner chaser dynamic. We're in many ways opposite.
Yes.
But also in future videos, we're also going to talk about how many times we've actually flipped back and forth with our roles.
Yeah, good point.
We haven't always just been one or the other.
Yeah. So, I think we're almost done, but I wanted to just switch roles for a minute and share your perspective on what it was like dealing with me as a runner. Like, how did it feel when I kept pushing you away and like, you're just trying to give me love, and I'm like, no, go away.
If you were always running, I could see that you wanted to go, but you would have days where you were totally into our relationship. Yeah. And then there'd be times when you weren't. It was pure confusion. There was just enough good to keep going on with confidence, but not enough good to see the growth day after day, week after week. It was very confusing. It tried the patience, but it didn't try the patience for a long time. Maybe because I was being very patient, but it was very hard to watch you go through those struggles because it wasn't me that was struggling. It was you. Mm-hmm. And I could see your hurt. I could see your pain. I wanted to be careful, didn't know how to be careful, so I was just being careful the only ways that I knew it, that I understood. But it was hard, very hard to watch. Yeah. More for you than for our sake.
And so did you feel when I was in the running stage and I wasn't communicating and pulling away, did you feel abandoned? Did you feel like, well, I got to pull her closer because I don't want to lose this relationship?
I wanted to pull you closer, but at the same time, we were still in touch a lot. So I wasn't that scared, and it wasn't degrading. It was, as far as the overall relationship was concerned, there was still lots of good bits. But I was starting to wonder when healing would happen. So I wasn't that scared, but I can't say I was terribly encouraged either.
Fair enough.
It was another lost time, very lost time. Just keep going day to day and see what keeps coming out of the days.
Yeah. So my advice to chasers, when your runner is running, honor them. Just let them run. The more you pull at them, the more you try to drag them back, honestly, the worse you make it. If we're running, we need to run. There's nothing you can do that's going to pull us closer. All you're doing is pushing us further away. So honor us and trust that we will come back once we do our healing, however long it takes. If it's 17 years like ours was, or if it's 2 years, a year, it doesn't matter. Just honor the runner and let them go, and in your own self recognize that you have your own runner because you're focusing on them. So instead, focus on you.
Does letting go have to be absolute? Do you have to just let them go and never try to contact them?
No.
I don't know if I don't know if letting a person go completely and just hope they call back sometime. Maybe in some circumstances, maybe I would back off.
Yeah.
Maybe back off a lot, but to back off completely, I don't know. I wouldn't want to let the runner get comfortable with no contact whatsoever. I don't know if that's of much benefit. If no contact's going to happen, I would say it better be mutual. But at the same time, each dynamic, each couple, they've got their own. So I feel really hesitant to give any firm advice on this.
I think the best advice I can give, though, is don't chase. Don't smother. And know that they don't need rescuing. A lot of you are seeing, well, they're hurt, they're wounded, and they need me because they don't have anybody else. The fact is, we don't need you. We need to find ourselves. The more you're there trying to rescue us, trying to save us, trying to coddle us, trying to love us, the more you're pushing us away from you and ourselves.
I sometimes feel that while the runner is running, they're also trying to help themselves.
Yes.
They're trying to help fix themselves.
Yes.
And if the chaser just keeps on chasing, it might create them to be stuck because they can't get away from the dynamic that's hurting them. So if a runner's going to run, give them some room. Yeah. They may do some discovering along the way. In fact, you hope they just do some discovering along the way because they're running for a reason.
Yep. And we need to run.
So do we have anything much more?
Let me just examine our
We have a cheat sheet over here.
Of course. We have so much stuff. I don't think we could ever not have a cheat sheet. I think I've covered all my little words about, vulnerability and being smothered and suffocated, overstimulated, overwhelmed. Those were all pretty big moments. So yeah, I think we got it covered, unless you have anything to add.
Nope, I don't have anything else to add. The top of my head is starting to get cold as the heat goes away from the vehicle. And I got one leg that is so badly asleep that after we stop this video, it's going to take me 5 minutes to unfold myself out of here.
Yes.
But other than that, this is
brilliant.
This has been a ton of fun.
Yes, it has. What a brilliant thing. Now, before we say goodbye, actually, maybe I'll say goodbye, and then do you want to just give them a little more of a shot? I'll move my head out of the way, and then you can show them the beautiful snow out there in a better way.
I might try to do a panoramic here again without sticking our poor little unit out here into the snowflakes and getting it wet. That would be wrong.
Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye. Remember to connect with your twin. Always go within, like we were just saying. You are one. So instead of chasing them, connect with yourself inside, heal you, and they will come back. Bye for now, and enjoy our snowy, beautiful day.
I'll say goodbye in a moment after letting you have a great look outside at our very snowy panoramic. There's Ange and the snowbank beside. And going way out beside us, parking lot. Giant parking lot out here in the middle of the mountains. There's the trees. Yep, there's my hatch. I'm lucky it stayed up. My hatch shocks are a little weak. I was afraid they were going to let the hatch down as we were in the middle of the video. We tried to do that during rehearsal.
Yes.
Have a good time.
Yes. Goodbye.
Bye.